No, na ke kuai kana hele hele ia la ia ke ki o hu e ka ua gogo. O na kino malu kalani malu e ho ulu ana o laka I kona maukahu. O makono, o makono, o makono.
Hi, I'm Eric Kwong. I'm the creator of Regenerative Decision Making. Regenerative decision making is a tool in the form of a decision making process through which decision makers everywhere persuade themselves to exponentially adopt regenerative options for scaling back the extraction flows and pollution flows of a system called the human enterprise and allowing the planet's regenerated biosphere to reverse the planet's ecological crises and allow the planet to heal itself. In this 5-part video series, I'm going to show you how a model for human and planetary well-being called Doughnut economics can help us design a decision-making process for reversing the planet's ecological crises. In the first video in this 5-part series, I shared with you that the blue donut depicts the sum of all the human decision-making that is creating the planet's ecological crises and creating human societies who gets what crises. When we understand that human decision-making is creating these crises, the questions for reversing these crises become, first, what is the decision-making that is creating the planet's ecological crises? And second, what is the decision-making that is creating human societies who gets what crises? In answer to the first question, the human decision-making that is creating the planet's ecological crises is a system that biologist Paul Ehrlich called the human enterprise. What is the human enterprise? The human enterprise is the sum of all the human decisions to extract physical things from the biosphere. Things like forests, fresh water, wildlife, soils, and minerals that I will call the things we extract. Plus, all the physical flows of all those things we extract. Things like forests, fresh water, wildlife, soils, and minerals from the biosphere and into the human enterprise. Plus, all the human decisions to use all those things we extract in the forms of energy, water, materials and chemicals, food and fiber, and manufactures and structures that I will call the things we use. Plus, all the physical flows of all those things we use. Things like energy, water, materials and chemicals, food and fiber, and manufactures and structures within the human enterprise. Plus, all the physical flows of pollution from all those things we use from the human enterprise back into the biosphere. Human beings need both things we extract options for things like forests, fresh water, wildlife, soils, and minerals, and things we use options for things like energy, water, materials, food, and manufactures for meeting their human physical needs. This is why the things we extract options plus the things we use options may be called options that meet human physical needs. The exponential growth of the human enterprise has reached a point where the exponential damage to the biosphere from the extraction flows of the human enterprise and the pollution flows from the human enterprise is outstripping the biosphere's capacity to regenerate itself. This exponential damage to the planet's biosphere is showing up as the Big 9 planet-scale ecological crises identified by the Stockholm Resilience Center and depicted as the areas beyond the donut caused by humanity's overshoot of planetary boundaries. The exponential damage to the biosphere from the extraction flows of the human enterprise is showing up as eco-crises of freshwater depletion and drought, eco-crises of deforestation and expanding deserts, and eco-crises of species extinctions and biodiversity loss. The exponential damage to the biosphere from the pollution flows of the human enterprise is showing up as eco-crises of global warming and climate change, eco-crises of synthetic pollutants such as herbicides, pesticides, and microplastics, eco-crises of ozone layer depletion, eco-crises of aerosol pollutants such as dust, smoke, and sulfates, eco-crises of ocean acidification, and eco-crises of phosphorus and nitrogen pollutants in rivers and coastal seas. The human decision-making that's creating the planet's ecological crises can be depicted within the donut-shaped space as the decision-making for adopting options that meet human physical needs, which is creating the planet's ecological crises. Let's now answer the second question. What is the human decision-making that is creating human societies who gets what crises? The human decision-making that's creating human societies who gets what crises is something called political economic decision-making for deciding who gets what. Political economic decision-making is all the decision-making through all decision-making processes used by decision makers throughout the whole of human society for deciding who gets what energy, for deciding who gets what water, for deciding who gets what food, for deciding who gets what health, for deciding who gets what education, for deciding who gets what income and work, for deciding who gets what peace and justice, for deciding who gets what political voice, for deciding who gets what social equity, for deciding who gets what gender equality, for deciding who gets what housing, and for deciding who gets what networks. The human decision making that is creating human societies who gets what crises can be depicted within the blue donut-shaped space as the political economic decision making for deciding who gets what. The donut shows us in one big picture that human decision making for adopting options that meet human physical needs is creating the planet's ecological crises, and that political economic decision making for deciding who gets what is creating human societies who gets what crises. When we understand that human decision making for adopting options that meet human physical needs is creating the planet's ecological crises, we can design a decision making process usable by decision makers everywhere, through which decision makers want to adopt options for meeting human physical needs that scale back the extraction flows and pollution flows of the human enterprise, that allow the planet's biosphere to regenerate itself, that allow the regenerated biosphere to reverse the planet's ecological crises, and allow the planet to heal itself. What might such a decision-making process look like for reversing the planet's ecological crises? In the third and fourth videos of this 5-part series, I'm going to share with you the 3 essential features of a decision-making process for reversing the planet's ecological crises. Do you want to find out just how powerful you can be for reversing the planet's ecological crises? If this appeals to you, please share this video and please consider subscribing to my Regenerative Decision Making Substack channel at erikvam.substack.com. Thank you for listening, and aloha.